The world of retro is an amazing world full of nostalgia when we look at video games and retro toys as well. Awesome retro toys from back in the day like bright lights, those awesome little slidey puzzles, and one of my favourites was a light up noughts and crosses electronic game. I used to spend hours on that thing playing it by myself or even playing along with my sister. Even when I had a Game Boy and a SNES at the time, I still found this thing so addictive and so fun to play. But these days we don't often see that awesome fun simplicity we used to see in those retro toys. However, there are some companies out there like GiiKER that are taking these awesome retro ideas and bringing them into the new age and giving us future retro toys. GiiKER reached out and asked me if I wanted to check out two of their latest retro toys. Toys that take inspiration from those classic slidey puzzles, bright lights, and even from Tetris. As soon as I saw these toys, they instantly gave me this huge rush of nostalgia and took me right back to playing those games as a kid, and reminded me how much I enjoyed them and how much I actually missed them. In a world where technology is so advanced, we can become oversaturated and sometimes things are a little bit too complicated. So to be able to go back to this more simplistic, more pure fun mindset is a really refreshing change. Now the first one I checked out was Super Slide, and it brands itself as a handheld console for sliding puzzles. Effectively what it is if you remember those puzzles as a kid that you could get, which was a picture made out of loads of squares and you could jumble them up and you'd have to try and put them back in the correct order, slide them around to make the picture again. It's basically that, but instead of just being the same picture over and over, this lets you place the blocks in different configurations which are dictated by the level that you're playing at. And based on these configurations, you have to find a way to slide the big red block down to the bottom middle area. Something that sounds incredibly simple, but as you go through the levels and the progression starts to get more difficult, this becomes a really tricky and really addictive game. Now I've shown my wife a lot of the games and the toys that I show you guys on this channel here, but this is the first one that instantly she just snatched away from me. As a kid, she used to love those puzzle games, and as soon as she saw this, it just brought back that nostalgia. And I said to her, go mad with it, enjoy it. And hours later, she was still playing around with this. She absolutely fell in love with it. And the thing that makes this really nice and enjoyable to use is not just the fact that it's a really fun puzzle, and not just the fact that it has a really nice progression system, starting you off quite simply and transferring you up to some really difficult levels. It's the way this is built as well. Each of the little blocks in Super Slide are magnetic, and you can take them off the console or put them back on the console. And when you do, they snap with that nice little magnetic connection. And what's furthermore, because they're magnetic, they slide around really nicely. And in each of the little blocks as well, there's some kind of little ball bearings that as you slide, they click along, which gives you a really nice tactile feedback and makes this not only an enjoyable game to play, but it feels really nice in your hands as well. It feels like it's quality and it gives you feedback while you're playing it. Following on from Super Slider, I checked out Super Blocks as well, which is almost like a real world Tetris. You can instantly see the influence of Tetris on this game. In the style and the look of it, it really captures the familiarity and nostalgia of Tetris as well. However, the gameplay loop is a bit different to standard Tetris. With Super Blocks, you have a number of shapes which come in 4 different colors. And the way the game plays is you have an area of light and a section will be illuminated. And using the colors defined, you have to fill in that section using those shapes. So in the early levels, you'll be tasked to fill in the shapes using just one color, and that's quite simple and gets you into the pattern and the routine. As you progress, it will go up to 2 colors, which becomes a bit more of a challenge, but because you've become familiar with the idea, it's not too difficult. However, as you get to 3 colors and even 4, this becomes an incredibly tricky puzzle. With those earlier levels probably only taking a minute or 2 to complete, some of those later levels can take you a good solid 10 minutes or even longer trying to figure out the pattern and the configuration to put these shapes in. For me, I really enjoyed the trickier levels of 3 and 4. This really presented a challenge and a puzzle that I really liked. What is really nice is that you can jump to those hard levels straight away. You don't have to go through that progression if you're not enjoying it. You can get straight to the difficult ones and give yourself that challenge right away. Now, there are 2 things I would like to be different about Super Blocks. The first one is that the shapes are not magnetic in this one. You have to push them in and pull them out, which doesn't really pose an issue apart from some of the earlier levels where you're frequently moving the shapes, and grabbing and pulling and pushing those little blocks can sometimes become a little bit tedious on your fingers. The other thing is that I'd like the brightness of the lights to be a little bit brighter. When you're in a room, when you're in your house, it's great. But if you're outside trying to play this, the daylight can make it a bit more difficult to see the white light shining, so you know which areas you have to fill in. Not big issues, but a couple of little niggles to give you a complete view of Super Blocks. Now, both Super Slide and Super Blocks are fantastic toys from GiiKER, and I like them them both for different things. With Super Slide, it was fantastic for me to have at my desk and to just pick up and have a quick go every so often. With Super Blocks, that was really enjoyable to give myself a solid challenge to really make myself think. And I absolutely love the look and feel of this and how it reminds me of Tetris. Now, both Super Slide and Super Blocks come with a nice material bag for you to carry everything in, which actually makes both these toys really portable and great to take on the go. And this is where both of these retro toys really started to shine, where I really started to see the magic of them, was taking them on the go, was playing them with my family and enjoying them together. One night, me, my wife and my eldest son all sat down and started to have a go of Super Slide. Now, me and my wife, we know these types of games, we got the nostalgia, but for my son, it's the first time he'd ever played anything like this. And he absolutely loved it. He loved the challenge. He loved the feel of it. And for somebody who's so used to video games and the digital world, I wasn't sure how we would take to a more traditional, more tactile toy. But he loved it. He loved the physical aspect, the challenge, and his face when he completed these puzzles was just absolutely brilliant. And that's when I really fell in love with Super Slide and Super Blocks. Originally, when I got these, I thought they were going to be a bit of a fun gimmick that tapped into nostalgia and gave me some good feels. But they've ended up being amazing fun devices that I can have on my desk if I'm bored for a quick 5 minutes to challenge myself, or something I can share with the family, something we can do instead of watching TV or playing video games. We always like the idea of cracking out a board game, but sometimes that takes too long to set up or too long to play through. Cracking out these lets us have some nice, quick fun or long fun depending on how long we want to play them. And the smiles and the enjoyment in the interaction we have as a family is something I never realized I was going to get from this. Something that really impressed me and I really enjoy. Now, Super Slider retails for around £30 and $40 on the GiiKER website, but I have seen them going for around about £20 and $30 on AliExpress. Super Blocks, however, is a newer product and can be found on the GiiKER website for around £50 or $60. You can find it on AliExpress, but it isn't any cheaper. Now, I will admit, when I first saw the price of Super Blocks, I did think that's quite expensive. Quite expensive for what I thought was a one-dimensional concept. But honestly, having played it and seen how much fun we get out of it, there's definitely a lot more value there than I realized. Super Slide, however, is in that comfortable price range of what I would like to pay for something like this. And I can honestly say, with the fun we've had as a family, it's worth every penny. Now, if you are interested in these retro toys of the future from GiiKER, I will put links in the description below. And in the meantime, drop a comment below and let me know what you think of these future retro toys. And don't forget to check out this awesome episode right here.